I didn't know the powerful story of Madame Fortune Taylor and what she did until I was researching. I was like, hey, I really want this to be a purposeful place. I want this to be named after somebody who did something great in Tampa, who looks like me, I know there's strong Italian history here in Tampa. There's strong, French history. There's also a rich Black history here as well.
Welcome to Tampa's Table, a culinary journey. I'm Jeff Houck. I'm Vice President of Marketing for the 1905 Family Restaurants. And my guest today is Dr. Jamaris Glenn. Welcome.
Hi, how are you, Jeff?
I'm very well. Owner, operator of 7th and Grove.
Yeah.
The Roast Deli.
Yes.
And Madame Fortune's Dessert Room.
Yes, that's right.
So I'm thrilled that you're here today.
I am excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So the original title of this was going to be Soul Food.
Okay.
But I saw an interview with you.
That's
and
right.
You're like, we don't do soul food.
We don't do soul food.
We do Southern food.
We do Southern food,
I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we call our food elevated Southern cuisine. I feel like soul food does come into that, but I feel like Southern cuisine is just so much more of a culmination of many things and many cultures. So you look at, the West Indian culture, you look at the Louisianan culture, like French culture and things like that. And all those like come into this really big melting pot that is Southern food. And although soul food definitely falls into that umbrella, we like to call ourselves elevated soul food.
Well, you said
elevated Southern food.
Elevated Southern.
There we go.
The other thing I heard you in another interview say is talking about, there's a tendency to kind of put, when you talk about soul food, there is no black monolith of Black food.
Absolutely.
And you were just talking about all the different cultures that have different representations under that.
For sure.
And once you kind of explore and find that, I always like to go and find one ingredient and follow it through various restaurants to see what they do with it.
Yes.
I'm wondering what your favorite Southern ingredient is.
Well, first I want to touch on that, what you talked about, like just the different cultures and things like that. Like one thing I always tell people when I interact with them is how all these cultures like kind of merge together, right? We talk about French culture, even Asian culture, and how that relates with West Indian culture. And you look at rice and Korean fried chicken and things like that. And so, people from the Asian culture taught West Indians how to make rice, and that is one of their biggest, dishes that they have today.
Sure.
Black people taught Korean people how to make fried chicken. So it's
a cultural exchange.
It's all a cultural exchange.
Right.
But my favorite dish, I would probably say, and it's a French dish, it's macaroni and cheese. So that is my favorite Southern.
Why do you
dish.
love that?
Man,
what makes that such a part of the Southern cuisine?
I am a cheese fanatic. So give me the Gouda, give me the Havarti, give me the cheddar, give me all of that. I love like the creaminess, and it just like, it feels like home when you eat it. You know what I'm saying? So. Like you can have it by itself, or you can have it with a protein or some vegetables. But macaroni and cheese, I mean, as a kid, come on now. Like my mom rarely made it from scratch, but when she did on those Sunday mornings, it was like really like a special time, right? So it would be Easter, or the pastor's coming to our house for dinner, and she would make this macaroni and cheese. It was just ooey gooey, and it just makes me feel like home. And I love eating this.
It's very soothing.
Yes.
And I've seen Gouda on your menu.
Yeah.
That sounds like I would like to have something good.
Yes.
Go make me something, please.
Yeah.
So you were talking about childhood. You grew up you're from Tampa.
I'm born and raised, yeah.
Now, what part of Tampa did you grow up?
I grew up in East Tampa.
Okay.
So I lived in, they call it the Fish Bowl. I don't know if you're familiar, but all the streets are named after fishes.
Right.
So I lived off of Tarpon Drive.
You can't serve tarpon on the menu.
No, not at all. But it was a great time, honestly. I really was very much into my community. My father was a deacon of the church, and my mother was a hairstylist. She owned her own business still owns her own business for quite some time, off of 22nd and Hillsborough. And, that's pretty much it.
Well, I used to go to a place called Grandma Flossie's out there.
Yeah.
And I miss that place so much. And it's like there's something in me that, and I don't know I'm sure everybody feels this way, but there's a point at which where, I like fine food. I love fine dining. I love being in a fancy place, but there's something about going to somebody's restaurant where it feels like human hands have touched it
Exactly.
and loved on it.
Yeah.
And you can almost taste the fingerprint, even though that's not the right metaphor. You can taste their signature of who they are.
Of course.
And there's a lot of that in Tampa. It sometimes turns over a little bit, for various economic family reasons, whatever that is.
Right.
But when I latch into one, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to come back here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you grew up in Tampa, East
Yes.
Ybor.
Yeah.
East Tampa.
Yeah.
What are your first food memories?
Ooh, well, again, like I'm a church kid. So we used to go to East Lake Mall, which is now like Net Park.
Right.
But East Lake Mall used to have a Morrison's. And so I don't know if you remember Morrison's.
I grew up with Morrison's.
Okay. So we're on the same page.
In South Pasadena.
Yes.
And all the waiters had their tuxedos and they would carry your tray to the table. Yeah.
So we had a Morrison's and then like Luby's and Grandy's, all these other kind of like Southern places.
Yeah.
And really that was like the place that I absolutely loved to go to after church. I was in the Husky section as a kid.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But so I love to eat.
Welcome to the club.
All right. So when I would sit there at church and, obviously kids are so restless, but I could not wait until after church because that's when mom and dad would take me to Morrison's to eat Southern food. And so they would have like the fried chicken, the macoroni and cheese and mashed potatoes, everything that I love.
You didn't get the Jell-O mold.
I did not get the Jell-O mold.
Oh, good.
No,
Okay.
I wanted something that was calorie dense. Okay. You guys can have that Jell-O in the hospital, but I loved it, and it was with my brothers and sisters and people that I would love, and that is the fondest memory that I have when it comes to my first experience with food, as well as my mother's cooking. Always my mom's cooking.
So what made you want to take the career path? Because you went into pharmacology.
I did. Yeah, I always loved service. I always loved helping people, and they actually are very closely related when it comes to helping people with their medications, making them feel well, and actually dealing with food and how food can actually heal a lot of people when it comes to mental health and things like that. You come in and may not be feeling the best, and when you step into 7th and Grove or Madam Fortune or Rose, we want you to we want to help you with that, sit you down, talk about your day, and over a good, nice comfort food, you know what I mean? And so I'm still in the business of healing.
Now you went to, if I'm not mistaken, you're a Rattler.
I am. I went to Florida A&M
Very
University.
proud.
Yes, very proud.
So tell me about, because I went to FSU.
Okay.
I almost went to A&M.
Okay, let's go.
Because they had the journalism program and FSU didn't.
Yeah.
And I really gave it a thought, went and toured and met with professors and everything like that.
I love that.
And I realized my mom wanted me closer to home, so I went to UF.
Yeah.
But I was so impressed with the school, and I had known people who've graduated since. What was it, that experience? That's a very different part of Florida.
Yeah, absolutely.
And tell me about the food life while you were in school.
Yeah, so, in high school, I went to Hillsborough High School.
I was referring to Florida A&M. I went straight to Rattler, but I apologize for the shorthand.
No worries. I went to Hillsborough High School, which is a fairly diverse high school. However, I was an IB program kid, and so there I was the only black male in my class, and it was great. I met a lot of friends, met a lot of people, but I wanted to be submerged in a culture and in an environment to where I could see people that looked like me.
Right.
And so I really wanted to get into, go to HBCU, and Florida A&M was my number one choice. And so I went there, and I actually was in the engineering school for a little bit. So FSU and FAMU they have their the same building. And so I was like, this is not for me. And so I started to do pharmacy, and then the food culture there was incredible. I mean, we had the orange room. If you left the orange room and did not smell like fried chicken, it was a problem. Like literally everybody's like, oh, you went to the orange room today? Yes, I did.
You wear it like a cologne.
Yeah. There's like no ventilation.
Why has nobody invented that?
Fried chicken cologne.
Exactly.
I love it. But like smelling like green, smelling like all this incredible food that we absolutely love to eat. And then I do remember this area called The Set. We used to have a food truck there, and it was a vegan food truck, and they had the best collard greens and the best vegan macaroni and cheese I've ever had in my life.
You don't always have to put a ham hock in it.
No, I don't always need that. No. And that's the great thing about Southern food is, like you said, it's not a monolith. There are foragers when during slavery, slaves would pick herbs and different fruits and vegetables and things like that. It's not just, fried chicken and macaroni and cheese. No. It's okra. It's, string, haricot vert. It's all these other types of things that we used to, bring into our dishes. So.
And the thing I love about the food of Black culture, from what I know from my perspective, is that the history of it is taking the best of whatever was given or what you could make of the leftovers or the scraps.
That's right.
And making something glorious out of it. And when you think about it, that's really the basis of French food, which was all the nobility had the good stuff, and then they had to make all these sauces to cover up how bad the leftovers were.
That's right. That's right.
And it's just about utility and community.
Yep. Yeah.
So I know you said they're similar, but pharmacology, when did it come to restaurant? What was the light bulb moment for you that you needed to step out and make a big? That's a big jump.
It's a big jump, and it's also a big pay cut. I mean, at least starting out.
Sure.
And so at the time, I loved what I did, but I was just really burnt out, and it was in the height of COVID. Right. So I was actually working my job and building my restaurant at the same time. And I was just falling in love with my restaurant and what I wanted to do. And, with pharmacy was great, but I was just burnt out. It was very high pressure on, and they whispered about it a little bit, but there was it was a big weight on the healthcare community, nurses, doctors, pharmacists, LPNs and CNAs and things like that. And so, we were just given so much responsibility and things that, testing and vaccinations. Sure. And it was just a heavy weight that I just couldn't continue on with.
So when somebody looks at restaurants as being more restful, I've never heard that before. Yeah. So I can imagine how intense it was. And in all seriousness,
absolutely.
It's like, oh, where do I go? Well, I go towards something that feels warm and human.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I really wanted to do. And even though COVID hit the restaurant business really hard as well, it was a different thing because this was a passion project for me. Sure. And so when it's your passion, it's like fight or flight. You know what I mean? And that's when I really fell in love with what I wanted to do.
So 7th and Grove. Tell me where the name comes from.
Yeah. So
please.
Yeah, of course.
I should say please. I'm sorry. That was rude.
No. I don't mind.
Tell me.
No.
Dr. Glenn.
I get it. But I would go to New York and Atlanta and DC, and they just have these really catchy names, like this and this, this and this. And I wanted something that represented Tampa and also represented what I wanted to do. So, there's nothing more historic or more of a landmark than 7th Avenue in Tampa, Florida. And so, and we were on 7th Avenue. So I said 7th, which is perfect. And my partner, she loved the name The Garden, and I hated that name. I thought it was super antiquated and like kind of like Golden Girls, like, you know what I mean? Like a place where they would go and
just name it Sophia's.
Yeah, exactly. Like Sophia's. But so I was
You don't know this about me, but I have a t-shirt where it lists every name of the Golden Girl in Helvetica, like Questlove wears the Helvetica. Yeah, I am a Golden Girls man.
Okay, so which one's your favorite?
Come on, it's Rose.
Is it? Okay, so mine is Dorothy. I love
And when I get frustrated, I drop into Swedish and make up some sort of Swedish word like Flurfenuggen or something. I interrupted your great story.
No, it's cool.
So we couldn't go to garden.
I hated the word garden, right. But I was looking at different words, and I loved the word flourish. Right. And I wanted it to be a place where they would come in and you would see aesthetics like, plants and foliage and things like that, but also flourish, meaning you can actually be who you want to be and become who you want to be in this space.
And there's a 3-word tag.
That's right. Eat, vibe, and flourish.
Eat, vibe, and flourish.
That's where we got the word growth from. I was like, I love the word growth. It's one syllable. It's very straight to the point. 7th and Grove.
So I've watched that corner for a long time because I literally work across the street over the 1905 family. Yeah. And I saw what went in there, and I thought, boy, I really hope that works.
Yeah.
And not that it wouldn't. Not that it wouldn't.
You and me both.
But it had sat there for so long and waiting for the right vibe.
Yeah, yeah.
And vibe is huge in Ybor. I joke about it and I say, Miami's Miami. Yeah. Orlando's Orlando, but Tampa is Florida.
Yeah.
The heart of Tampa is Ybor City.
That's right.
You take Ybor City out,
right,
and it's just a nice place on the water.
Yeah.
but that's where its vibe is and its history and its feeling. And you're right there on the main artery,
absolutely,
on the corner, like the bow of a ship.
Yeah.
And tell me a little bit about when you got underway, a little bit about how you came to the menu.
Yeah.
You mentioned your partner.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about it if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
My please and thank you. Talk about it, if you don't mind, how you put the menu together and came up with that first launch.
Yeah. Well, me and Kalia, we really sat on it for a little bit, but we said, listen, this is something that we've always wanted to do. And how are we going to execute it? What kind of dishes do we want to create in our menu? What do we want? What is a story that we want to tell, right? So as a kid, and I've kind of told this before, but like I would walk home from school and I would almost reach my house, but I could hear like Anita Baker playing from my mom's house.
You bring me joy.
And then that's right. And then the smell of even Michael Bolton, Soul Survivor, things like that coming from the house, as well as smells of different foods that she cooked. And I told myself, you know what, if I ever create a menu, I'm going to name each dish after a song. And so that's what we did. So
it's a playlist. It's not a menu.
It's a playlist. It really is a playlist. We have the Let's Stay Together. We have the Rock the Boat. All these are
I
great.
wondered if that was the Hughes Corporation or not when I read that title. I had the 45. That's how old I am. Right. I had the 45 from my grandmother's jukebox.
Yeah. So I wanted to put those things in, and also food that makes sense. So like the Let's Stay Together is the foundation is macaroni and cheese with a mound of braised collards and fried chicken with a
well, you have to have greens because it's out green.
That's right.
Yeah,
exactly. See, you get it. You get it.
I know.
We just don't stick a name on there.
No.
It has purpose.
Reverend Al would be calling saying, "Give me my money."
That's right. And we'd be like, "Oh, we'll call it Let's Be There."
And then Michael called. Got to be there. No. So you were vibing even through the titles of the menu.
Yeah, even through the titles of the menu and how we designed the space and what we wanted to do with the space. Kalia and I put our heads together and we just executed. She does a lot of the operational stuff. I do a lot of the marketing, and design and things like that, and how we want to kind of like introduce ourselves to the public. And she and her and I we just been two peas in a pod.
So from the time you opened till now, obviously you have other concepts, and we'll talk about those. Tell me how you've seen your demographic grow.
Yeah. So when we first started out, it was very slow, but people were excited to see us, so we got a lot of friends and family, and I think also what helped was both of us are from Tampa, Florida. And so a lot of us, we were doing things before this, right? Different events.
Sure.
I used to do like little supper clubs. She used to own her own smoke shop and barber shop. So we would come and come together and do all types of things together. So, we hit up everybody we knew and we're like, listen, we want to share this with you guys. They hit up the people they knew, and it's just been growing. And the crazy thing about it is, and I say this a lot, and I don't want anybody to get offended, but we are not a kid-friendly place. We want this to be for adults that, you can leave the kids with grandma, grandpa, or, with the sitter and come and really, really decompress. So we don't offer a kids menu or high chairs or booster seats. Children are allowed, however, but they'll have to share a meal with you or something.
I get it. There's other places.
Yeah. So we wanted to be kind of like more of an adult-friendly place where you can just kind of like wind down, decompress, no stress, nothing. And so, and that's how we started.
And then it's almost like the Columbia in a lot of ways, where it's like as you grew, you took over the next space and the next space.
That's right. Yeah.
So, the thing I noticed is after you got the restaurant going, you opened up that sort of area that has the bar area,
the bar.
And that expanded a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And then I noticed, the face of the restaurant was sort of changed by the hour.
That's right.
It's like the later in the day had a different vibe than the early in the day.
That's right.
It's a great lunch spot.
Yeah.
But then later on, it's a gathering spot.
Yeah. And honestly, I always say that you will not change Tampa. Tampa will change you. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what it did. Like Ybor City is such a melting pot of different personality. It's just like, you got just so many people. Anybody you could think of. You got the Goths. You have the LGBTQ community. You have women, you have men. It is, I mean, different demographics, different ages, and what they want to do. And what they want to do at night in Ybor City is bar hop and have a good time and drink. And so that's kind of like how we created our space. It was supposed to be like a kind of like a cool lounge and things like that. And it did not, it never it never made it. Tampa will change it exactly to what it wants to be.
There's the thing that you think of, and then Tampa takes over and says, I like it, but this is how I want to use it.
They're like, hey, Tampa's like, hold my beer.
Right.
So so we're like, cool. And we kind of catered it and tailored it to what we wanted it to be, with certain things that we wanted to implement. Sure. But it's been, people call it a nightclub sometimes, and that's kind of like what it evolved into. It was never going to be the space for that, but it's been great. The brunch vibe is insane on Sundays and Saturdays.
Tampa loves brunch.
Yeah, we do a drag brunch, which is really cool too. And so it's just evolved, and we allowed it to kind of like be. And that's what it was. So.
Well, when I heard that you were making a speakeasy, right next door, it's like the conquest continues.
Yes,
you're like the Tyler Perry of 21st.
That's right.
Just keep going.
That's right.
No, you're on 20th. I'm sorry, I apologize. But when I heard it was Madame Fortune's dessert room and HiFi Parlour, I just thought this is genius because I knew of Madame Fortune thanks to our mutual friend Gloria Jean Royster.
That's right.
And how she was a freed slave who owned property downtown, part of which was used to build a bridge across the Hillsborough.
That's right.
And as Gloria Jean says, she was the bridge.
Yeah, she was.
And so when you're going and tapping into that history of Tampa for the dessert room, what was your thought about how the roast deli would be the front, and then the door opens, and then there's the speakeasy?
Yeah. So we had I don't know if you remember, but that was Sunday's Deli.
It was.
And Dave Sunday was, he had that property for quite some time. And just talking back and forth with him, he also experienced burnout, and he wanted to do something different. And so we're like, he's like, hey, if you guys want this space, it's yours. We had no idea that we were going to be conquering 7th Avenue. But he allowed us to do that. And so kind of as a homage to him, I was like, this would be a great speakeasy. I fell in love with speakeasies, and we have some great ones here with Ciro's.
Well, there's a history of it in Tampa.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
It's a speakeasy town from way back.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And so I was like, man, this would be a great speakeasy. We'll do the front. We'll make it a deli/bakery, kind of as a homage to him, and also, put our twist on it. But also when you move this door, you come into this beautiful space to where you can enjoy great food, but also excellent desserts and cocktails. And Madame Fortune, to me, I actually learned about Madame Fortune maybe a little bit over a year ago.
Really?
And I'm a Tampa native, and I would drive on Fortune Street so many times, and I didn't know the powerful story of Madame Fortune Taylor and what she did until I was researching. I was like, hey, I really want this to be a purposeful place. I want this to be named after somebody who did something great in Tampa, who looks like me, I know there's strong Italian history here in Tampa. There's strong, French history. There's also a rich Black history here as well. And I wanted to name it after someone. And so I kept researching, found out about Madame Fortune, fell in love with her story. And contacted Miss Gloria Jean, who is like the historian of all historians of Madame Fortune. She did her walking tours and everything like that. And
she literally wrote the book.
She literally wrote the book. And when I tell you, I contacted her, she contacted me immediately back. We sat there for maybe about 3 or 4 hours, and she just poured into me like she was my grandmother or my aunt or my best friend, and I'm just like so grateful to her.
Sure.
She gave me so much information and that I use today in the lounge. And so when you walk in, there's actually now there's this glass that we actually have the Madame Fortune bridge etched into, and you'll see citrus around the area. Her and her husband were very big citrus farmers.
Right.
We incorporated that into our desserts and in our cocktails. And we're just really, really proud of it.
Well, I know Gloria Jean is over the moon about it.
Yeah, man.
She's as proud as, it's like she's like a mother to it.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. She is the mother. We actually have a cocktail named after her called the Gloria Jean, and it's the spicy one.
Oh, it would have to be.
We actually set it on fire, because she's a fireball, man.
That is entirely appropriate.
Yes. I said, I'm not leaving here until I name a cocktail after her, because if it wasn't for her, I don't think it would probably be named like Bob's Burgers or something.
Well, I have to tell you, I wrote a book about the Cuban sandwich, the history of the Cuban sandwich, and so I had to come over and have your Cuban.
Yes.
And you have an Afro-Cuban.
Yes, we do.
And I want you to kind of describe, if you don't mind, talking about the ingredients of it. I love storytelling through food, and you do an abundance of that.
Oh, yeah.
But that thing was so soulful in a way that a lot of Cuban sandwiches aren't.
Yeah. So actually that name comes from Celia Cruz, who is Afro-Cuban. Right. And I've always fallen in love with the Cuban sandwich, as you know, and people need to understand that it originated in Tampa, right, Jeff?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. This is for all the people
the one
from Miami.
that everybody fell in love with happened in Tampa first.
Right.
Back when Miami was a town named Fort Dallas,
that's right.
We were serving Cubans.
Educate us, because
exactly.
I get on people all the time, and they're like, "Oh, it's from Miami." I'm like, "No, it's from Tampa." But
the struggle will always continue.
Exactly. So I'm such a purist when it comes to certain things like that. I didn't want to mess it up or anything like that, but we do add a fried green tomato on there as well, to keep it more of a southern feel. We actually use a remoulade sauce now too, that makes it just a little bit more delicious in my opinion. But
there's turkey on it.
Turkey also, we still do the roasted pork and the ham as well, the different cheeses.
See, a lot of people don't know that up until about the 1980s, turkey was pretty standard, and it was even on the mixto before it left the island. So you're doing historically accurate stuff there.
Idea.
Maybe not remoulade, but there's a lot of really authentic parts of it that really got me, because I'm like, a lot of people didn't understand that back on the island, the sandwich wasn't, I mean, it was a mixto because it was a mixture of everything that the island could offer, because sometimes you might run out. It's an island.
That's right.
But turkey was prevalent, obviously pork. But that jumped, and like I said, in Tampa as late as the 80s, it was there. So, but
I never knew that.
It's so good. It's so good.
Thank you.
And
so
you use the La Segunda bread. So
yes. We do. So they're a local spot that we absolutely love. And so,
So for Visit Tampa Bay's new cookbook, Tampa's Table, A Culinary Journey, you have a recipe in there.
I do.
What recipe are you doing?
So we are doing, first is called the Dive In. And that is, for those who don't know, who are not from Tampa, we use a crab shallot sauce, which is kind of like a tomato based. And so we put lump crab in that and mix it into a pasta. And then it's topped with the fried catfish and some grilled and sauteed shrimp. That's pretty much the gist of it, but it's absolutely delicious. So we wanted to do a play on catfish and spaghetti, which is kind of like a northern thing. And so we're like, no, catfish and pasta, but we're going to make crab shallot.
Sure.
And so we did that, and it's a crowd favorite. And then the other one is actually from Madame Fortune, which has more of a Caribbean feel to it, and that is a dish that I grew up with. My mother's Guyanese; she's from Guyana, South America. So it's the oxtail pepper pot, and so it is my favorite, one of my favorite dishes of all time. But you have these tender oxtails that's kind of like dancing in this. It's like a jus, but it's a little bit of oil based. That's why people are like, when they know of oxtails, but they don't know a pepper pot.
Right.
That there's this jus. Like, they're like, oh, this is kind of oily, but trust me, trust the oil. And
surrender to it.
Yeah, surrender to it. And it has a spice to it. It has scotch bonnet in it, and it also has cosreep. And cosreep is kind of like a syrup that comes from the cassava leaves, that gives it this darkening, browning, and kind of like almost sweet taste. But there's also spice to it. And then we serve that with rice and peas and bus-up shot roti, which you dip in the oil, and it's just delicious.
That sounds magical.
It's wonderful. It's my favorite dish.
If I'm not off here, it's not because I'm not interested. It's because I have food coma now before I've ever eaten it. Yeah. That recipe should come with a sleep number.
There you go. And listen, I never finish it. I'm a big guy. I never finish it. I'm usually knocked out.
Well, now I have to accept the challenge. Yeah, we're brothers in magnitude.
Yes,
here.
we are.
So when you go home, what is the comfort food that you choose? Do you cook at home? We've asked a bunch of guests on the show.
Yeah.
about what they do when they go home, because everybody has this fantasy, like if you own a restaurant or you're a chef, you go home and you do these elaborate sous vide and cryovacs and all that stuff. What do you do? What's the food that you enjoy when you go home and you want to comfort yourself?
Yeah, so I definitely don't cook. I choose not to cook. I'm a big foodie at heart. Before I even started my restaurants, I fell in love with all types of restaurants here in Tampa. I mean, I absolutely love them. Even like Barter House is one of my favorite restaurants here in Tampa, and they're in Ybor, further down. So I'll grab something from them. They have like the best cheeseburger to me, and so I always eat their cheeseburger there. Or I'll go to something easy like Fresh Kitchen. I'll grab me something from there. But if I'm like a turkey sandwich type of guy, I'm like a grilled cheese and tomato soup.
Tastes like home.
It tastes like home, and why not? And so usually I stray away from Southern cooking though, because I do so much at my restaurant.
Sure.
So it'll be something different, maybe Italian, Mexican, definitely Mexican.
So what do you see for the future for both you and your company, but also for Tampa and food? What is it? Because we talked about, it's been 5 years since the last edition of Tampa's Table.
Right.
And so much has changed in that.
Yeah.
What do you see for the future?
Yeah. I'm excited. I'm really excited about the new wave of restaurants that are there. I'm excited that Tampa is getting these Michelin nods, which I think is really, really great. And I foresee Tampa being one of those food hubs, that people can go to and have great food in Tampa. There's so much more to Florida than, key lime pie and things like that, which we love it. But, Tampa is just, it's literally like I said, so many cultures all in one. And you can experience that here, unlike a lot of other different places. If you go to California, you're going to be heavy in the Asian and Mexican food culture. If you go to Louisiana, you'll be in the heavy Creole and French culture. Sure. But in Tampa, I mean, you got the Cuban culture, you have the Italian culture, you have the Black culture. And so, I'm excited to see what comes from that. As far as 7th and Grove and the Madam Fortune, just expansion. I love the restaurant industry, but I would love to get into more the hotel side of hospitality.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so, definitely creating, rehabbing a motel or, doing maybe like a bed and breakfast.
No, I would have bread and breakfast too.
Yeah. I have bread for breakfast.
There's your new name.
Yes. So those types of things are really important.
Call La Segunda. They'll do a hotel.
Exactly,
absolutely. Right across the street.
But I would love to have a hotel with a restaurant inside.
Okay.
And so we, and get more into that arena. I definitely would love to expand to different cities throughout Florida and beyond. We're looking at Orlando right now, St. Petersburg, and other places like Houston and Las Vegas.
There's a lot out there.
There's a lot, and a lot of people who want to eat our food, which is really great.
What you talked about, though, I think is so important. Because unlike a lot of other places like California or wherever, where people lived in their own neighborhoods, everybody worked together in the cigar factories early in the day. So there was a precedent set for everybody knowing each other, living among each other.
Right.
Everybody had their social clubs, the Martin Maceo and the Germans and the Spanish and the Cubans and the Italians. But everybody knew each other and they flowed through the same circles.
Yep.
As opposed to being walled off and we can only live here and whatnot. And there was some of that in Tampa. Let's not be ashamed of it, is what it is. But that's how much has changed.
Right.
But the other part of it is that everybody influenced each other. And so when you talk about crab shallal, which people from Tampa who aren't from Tampa might not know, it's literally people taking chicken necks on a string down to McKay Bay, putting it in the water, pulling out crabs, and making something of what the water provides.
That's right.
And then you pick out the meat, you put it in some sauce. Spanish use different spices than the Italians or maybe the Cubans did.
Absolutely.
And then you put it on top of pasta and you have dinner for at least 10 people.
Yep.
I've been to crab shallal feasts that it felt like I probably should have been paying double
Yeah.
because it was that satisfying. It's
Yeah,
a
it's
very
good.
satisfying dish.
Yeah.
So I'm excited that people are going to see the cookbook and
Yeah.
get the recipe and try and make it at home.
I'm excited for people to try and make it at home too. You know, I don't think there's no wrong way to make it. You know, we try to make it the directions as easy and simple as possible, and we just want people to enjoy.
So where do you go for inspiration? Do you go to restaurants? Do you watch TV? Do you watch any kind of instructional? What is it that inspires your soul?
I honestly, my mother, I look at different dishes from her, but also me and my partner Kalia, we don't sleep. Like literally it'll be 4:00 in the morning and she'll send me something from Instagram and be like, oh my God, let's do this. And I was like, well, let's not do it, but let's spin it, and do something like it. But we also travel to different cities.
Sure.
And the first thing we do is check out a restaurant. Like every day we eat out, we make sure. And so we order everything on the restaurant menu, and we just try different things. I mean, I think we don't have culinary backgrounds. We're not classically trained.
Sure.
We just know what we love. We know food that we love and we want to eat, and we want people to enjoy it. So we're always inspired by different restaurants and throughout Tampa and beyond. And that's pretty much where we get our inspiration from. And I'm just totally like impressed with how you can manipulate food and make food into different dishes and different tastes, and this is spicy, this is acidic, this is fatty, and that's just something that we're just kind of inspired by, and we just continue to implement in our dishes.
The search goes on.
The search goes on.
Never stops.
No, never stops. And I am a big Chef Show fan.
Are you? Do you have a favorite?
So, well, right now I'm obsessed with The Bear.
Yes.
The
Yes.
Bear.
Have you watched the second season?
I have watched it twice.
Oh, really?
Man, that Christmas
I can't watch it twice.
Right.
Because it stresses me out.
It is very stressful, but that Christmas scene for me,
it ranks up there with The Godfather. I'm not joking.
Jamie Lee Curtis is a gem.
My wife and I looked at each other across the living room, and we're like, what are we watching here? And I looked at her and I go, Emmy Award.
Emmy Award, absolutely. But The Bear I'm obsessed with. I loved all the chef shows. Chef's Table on Netflix. I've seen every single one.
Yeah.
Just about their story. And I mean, food is the biggest uniter to me. It is, I can speak a different language. You can speak a different language. But if we got a plate of food and it's good and we're eating it, we speak the same language, And so I just really love the story that food tells.
There was a point when the Republican convention was in town.
Yeah.
And I was assigned to go out every day and find out where people were talking about.
Okay.
And I went to a place called Tampa Love Chicken and Waffles.
Yeah.
It was way, way, way up on Florida.
Okay.
And I sat there, and there was a father and a daughter who were white over here.
Yeah.
And then there was an AAU basketball player and his girlfriend who were black.
Yeah.
And they're sitting in a place with chicken and waffles. And the point of my column when I wrote it was, if chicken and waffles can bring us together,
that's right.
There's nothing wrong.
There's nothing wrong.
Food is the bridge.
That's right. Food is the bridge.
And, did they have a conversation? No. Were they sitting in the same room? Yes. Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to get in the room first.
Of course.
So I love the way that food is a binder.
Yeah.
And now I have to come and have oxtail. See, oxtail, here's the great thing. Oxtail was one of these things that used to be cast off. It used to be inexpensive. It used to be cheap, like Brussels sprouts.
Yes.
Then somebody figured out how to make it right. Or make it in a way that was authentic.
Yeah.
And now it's like prime rib.
Now, it's make oxtails cheap again.
That'll be the next shirt. I'm going to stop wearing the Golden Girls shirt. Make oxtail cheap. I'm going to make you one.
Please.
Absolutely. I had it last week at a Jamaican restaurant and just fell in love with it all over again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, why is this so expensive? I would make this all the time.
It's so expensive, man. And it's a sauce that really gets you. You put in that rice, oh, it's over.
I feel that.
Yeah.
Thank you for being the guest.
I had so much fun.
I'm looking forward to seeing the recipes in the book.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Make sure you cook it. It's going to be delicious.
Absolutely. I'll be by soon.
Thanks so much.
So keep an eye out for Tampa's Table, a culinary journey, which will be coming out in the fall. Thank you for joining us.